flight at 70,000 feet, more than 13 miles above the Earth. Below you, the world is silent. Above you, the familiar blue has bled away into the blackness of space. You are a member of one of the most exclusive clubs on the planet. But up here, in this beautiful but lethal environment, there is zero room for error. A tiny mistake, a shift of just a few knots in airspeed, could rip your aircraft apart and send you into a stall that you can't recover from. This isn't some what-if scenario. This is the day-to-day reality of a U-2 pilot. And just one of the reasons why this plane is arguably one of the most demanding and difficult aircraft to fly in the entire U.S. Air Force. Welcome back to AeroExploration, and today we're going to talk about the U-2 reconnaissance plane, also called the Dragon Lady. We're going to talk about the aircraft itself, its mission, and along the way we're going to talk to one of its pilots, Gogo, who is a member of that exclusive club of aviators who has been able to fly this remarkable aircraft. So let's dive right in and learn a little bit more about the U-2. So they call her the Dragon Lady, a name that she has earned for her unforgiving and temperamental nature. For over 7 decades, the Lockheed U-2 has been the face of high-altitude reconnaissance, a shadowy icon of the Cold War that's still on the front lines of intelligence gathering today. First flown way back in 1955, it has outlasted countless would-be successors, a testament to its brilliant yet deeply challenging design. But while its mission is to see everything from the edge of space, the real story is about the handful of pilots who have ever qualified to fly it. So what is it that makes this Cold War legend so notoriously tough to fly? The answer isn't just one simple thing. It's a symphony of extreme engineering and punishing physics that makes every single flight a battle against the sky itself. So to really understand the Dragon Lady, you have to go way back to her birth. In the mid-1950s, the Cold War was a war of shadows, and America was basically flying blind. The Soviet Union, tucked behind the Iron Curtain, was totally a black hole of information. President Eisenhower needed eyes in the sky, a way to find out what was really going on with Soviet bombers and missiles. The answer came from Lockheed's legendary Skunk Works, the top-secret design group run by genius Clarence Kelly Johnson. The requirements for the time were staggering. Build a plane that could fly at 70,000 feet, an altitude everyone thought was impossible for Soviet fighters and missiles to reach. To pull this off, Johnson's team created something truly radical. It wasn't a jet in the way that we think. It was more of a jet-powered glider. It had these enormous, high-lift wings spanning over 100 feet, bolted to a skinny, lightweight frame. Everything about its design was for one thing and one thing only: altitude. Weight was shaved off everywhere. The wings were so long and light they couldn't even hold up traditional landing gear. Instead, the U-2 uses a bicycle-style setup with the 2 main landing gear on the fuselage. And on the wings are little detachable wheels called pogos that come off during takeoff. So the result is an aircraft that could soar into the stratosphere, an engineering marvel that first took to the skies from the mysterious Groom Lake facility in Nevada, which you probably have heard of as Area 51. Its existence was one of the nation's most closely guarded secrets. For years, the U-2 flew untouched, bringing back priceless intel that literally reshaped American foreign policy. But that invincibility was shattered on May 1st of 1960 when CIA pilot Francis Gary Powers was shot down over the Soviet Union by a surface-to-air missile. The incident sparked an international crisis and instantly cemented the U-2's legendary status. It was also a brutal reminder of the immense risk that these pilots took on with every single mission. Alright, flying the U-2 is no joke. It's not just a job. It is a physical and mental marathon that starts long before takeoff and ends with one of the trickiest landings in all of aviation. The difficulties really boil down to 3 things: the brutal flight environment, intense human factors, an unforgiving challenge of just getting the plane back onto the ground. Alright, so let's talk about the first challenge. The first and most famous challenge of flying at altitude is what's called the coffin's corner. The U-2 is operating where the laws of aerodynamics are just at a razor's edge. As the plane climbs, air gets thinner and thinner as you reach different altitudes. So to generate enough lift, it has to fly faster. So its stall speed, the slowest you can go before you fall out of the sky, keeps creeping up and up and up as they gain more altitude. At the same time, the speed of sound gets slower as the air gets colder. So every plane also has a maximum never exceed speed. It cannot break the speed without the risk of structural failure of the aircraft. So at 70,000 feet for the U-2, those two critical speeds, the too slow and the too fast, are dangerously close to each other. We're talking a window of just 5 or 10 knots. This tiny gap is the coffin's corner. If you go too slow, you stall, and the air is too thin, recovery is just a nightmare. You go too fast, and the plane could literally be torn apart. Even something as simple as a turn can become quite the balancing act. As you turn, the inside wing starts to slow down, risking a stall, and the outside wing speeds up, risking disaster. So pilots have to fly with near superhuman precision for hours on end. Gogo explains to us what it's like to fly at those altitudes.
It is absolutely surreal. So you can start to see the curvature of the Earth up there. The sky is a dark blue. If you're ever flying at sunset, you can physically see the line of when it turns from night to day. And we call that the Terminator. And that's one of the coolest aviation views I've seen in my entire life.
As we talked about the air being thinner the further up you go, you have to think about survival at 70,000 feet. And that takes not just a special plane, it takes a special pilot, sealed inside what's basically a custom-fitted spacesuit.
We have to fly in a full pressure suit. The reason for that is above the Armstrong line, which is about 52,000 feet, water will boil at room temperature. So that would be really bad if your blood boiled. It would be instantaneous death. The suit is there as a backup. The cabin is pressurized. But if it were to lose pressure, or heaven forbid we ever had to eject, we need that suit there as the measure of safety.
So the same features that make the U-2 a high-altitude champion and like Dancing with the Lady make it a monster to land, or the Dragon.
It's called the Dragon Lady for a reason. At altitude where the air is really thin, it's like Dancing with a Lady. But when we're down at lower altitudes where the air is a lot more dense, it's like taming a dragon. And that's due to a few things. So one of those being the fact that none of our flight controls are assisted by hydraulics. So it's like driving a car without power steering. And that they're pretty big flight control surfaces. So the control forces are very heavy. The other thing is that we land in a bicycle configuration.
Those massive glider-like wings are so efficient that even with the engine at idle, the plane just doesn't want to land. So as the aircraft gets closer to the runway, it hits ground effect, which is a cushion of air between the wing and the ground that creates even more lift, causing the plane to float stubbornly just above the runway. Now, because of the long nose and the restrictive helmet, the pilot can barely see the runway as it is. So to do this, they typically will have a chase car that will assist them in landing. That chase car is another U-2 pilot that's driving a high-performance vehicle, speeding down the runway right behind the landing U-2 at over 100 miles an hour, all while still giving instructions to assist with landing.
Nice job, welcome back.
It's really an incredible display of teamwork and trust that's been essential to U-2 operations from day one. The level of difficulty is something very few people will ever experience, but understanding these challenges gives you a whole new appreciation for the skill that it takes. If you find this look into elite aviation fascinating, make sure that you subscribe, hit the notification bell, and we will explore the world's most incredible machines and the people who master them every week. So how does one even get the chance to wrestle with the Dragon Lady? Well, the path is one of the most exclusive in the military, and it's not just reserved for the Air Force. For decades, only highly experienced pilots from other jets, fighters, and bombers with thousands of hours of flight experience were even considered. The program did, however, recently start looking at younger pilots, but the selection process is still an absolute meat grinder. The ones who make the first cut get an invitation to Beale Air Force Base for a tough 2-week of interviews. And this isn't just talking. It's an intense evaluation of their flying skills, professionalism, and mental toughness. The final exam is a series of 3 flights in the training version of the U-2 that is 2 seats. The U-2 has a knack of finding any weakness in a pilot's fundamentals. There's no faking it here. You either have the delicate touch and the instinct for the aircraft or you don't. So once they're in, the pilots go through months of intense training. They'll master the U-2, they'll fly the T-38 Talon to stay sharp, spend countless of hours in simulators, practice landing after landing, and they'll endure altitude chamber sessions to get their bodies ready for missions. The result is a tiny, tight-knit community of aviators, all bound by the shared experience of mastering one of the most challenging machines ever built. So in an age of satellites and advanced drones, you might ask yourself why a plane designed in the 50s is still flying critical missions. Well, the Air Force does plan to start retiring the fleet around 2026, but for now, the Dragon Lady remains a vital tool. So the reason it's stuck around for so long is its incredible flexibility. A satellite's orbit is predictable and locked. A U-2 can be sent anywhere in the world and can hang out over a target for hours, providing constant streams of information. And while the airframe might be old, the tech inside is cutting edge. They continue to update sensors, and they carry a huge variety of advanced cameras, signal intelligence gear, and data link systems. This lets it serve as a critical communications hub in the sky, connecting forces on the ground, in the air, and even in space. So while its days might be numbered, the U-2's legacy is etched in aviation history. It's a story of bold, Cold War spycraft, brilliant engineering, and constant reinvention. But more than anything, it's a tribute to the incredible skill, dedication, and courage of the tiny fraternity of pilots who earned the right to fly it. They're the only ones who truly tamed the Dragon Lady, flying her at the edge of space to keep watch over a world that rarely even knew it was there. So what do you think is the craziest part of flying the U-2? The spacesuit, the coffin corner, or landing it with a chase car? Let us know down in the comments below. And if you enjoyed this look at the U-2, you can hear my full interview with Gogo over on the Flying Midwest podcast in just a couple of weeks. When that's posted, I'll be sure to include that in the link if you're watching this later, or I'll be sure to post that on the channel itself. Don't forget to like this video, subscribe for more stories just like this, and thank you so much for joining me on AeroExploration.